The bad news is the Blue Jackets lost to the Washington Capitals. The good news is they beat the St. Louis Blues. However, more bad news as Elvis Merzlikins leaves the game with a back injury, making it unlikely that he will be able to return for at least a couple of games. And on top of all of that, it's the trade deadline today, so we're going to talk about all of that and more on today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. They have you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before, because BetOnline is where the game starts. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day or first watch of the day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and also YouTube, so wherever you find me, make sure you like and subscribe and check back in every Monday to Friday with more Blue Jackets content. So we're not going to spend a ton of time today talking about the loss to the Capitals because it happened a million years ago, and also I don't think there's a lot to really kind of recap. Just a disappointing loss against a team that you're chasing in the standings. Honestly, I don't think it's frustrating that it's specifically Washington or that was specifically the effort, but those are the kind of games that you need to win, and allowing 7 goals is not playoff material, honestly. I think that was the game that's really put the nail in the coffin for the Blue Jackets. I know it dropped them below a 1% chance of making the playoffs, according to Micah McCurdy's model. So, it's very much, yes, there is still a chance that they could make the playoffs, but it is extremely unlikely. I believe they are 13 points back of Washington at the minute. They are 13 points back of Washington. They have 67 points to Washington's 80. They have a game in hand, so there's that, but I don't see it happening. I just don't. So from now on, I think we're just going to treat this as if the Blue Jackets are not going to make the playoffs, and then if they do, then hey, everybody wins. If not, I get to be right. So we're just going to treat them as basically eliminated from now on, and I think you can point to this game as, if they'd won this game, I still don't know that they would have made the playoffs necessarily, but it would have, I think, been a big confident boost. I think it would have been a bigger statement by the team that if they can beat a team like the Washington Capitals, then maybe they are ready to make the playoffs. But as it stands right now, they didn't look like a team that was ready to do anything in the playoffs. So that's all I've really got to say about that. It was good to see Patrik Laine continue to score. Good to see Oliver Bjorkstrand score. He, I believe, has 8 points in his last 5 games. So that's exciting. The power play was pretty good. The penalty kill was not, which again kind of seems on brand. Beyond that, there's, like I said, there wasn't a lot to talk about. There is much more to talk about with the St. Louis game. It was pretty exciting. Emil Bemstrom scores his 3rd of the season, makes it 1-0 3 minutes in. So, really good to see him get a goal. Obviously, he's had a really tough season. He's been up and down with injuries, spent some time in Cleveland, spent some time in the press box, spent a lot of time on IR. So, really good to see him on that 4th line with Eric Robinson doing well. Vladislav Gavrikov with an assist, again, very quietly putting together a pretty nice little offensive season for a defensive defenseman. So, you can't complain about that. You can complain about David Perron because he exists specifically to antagonize both me and also Jonathan Quick. Scores on the power play. Makes it 1-1. Gus Nyquist scores to make it 2-1 going into the first period. Patrik Laine makes it 3-1 in the second period, again continuing his streak, hits 25 goals. He has 21 of those goals were in the last 18 games. So I think, and this is something I've talked about a little bit on Twitter, and something we're going to talk about kind of in the next week or so, I think, as the playoff race kind of comes to an end. Is Patrick Laine still on a hot streak, or is this just the kind of player he is? And if so, should the Blue Jackets look to re-sign him, or should they, do another 1 year show me contract and see from there? So that's something we're going to talk about a little bit later on this week, probably. But Patrick Laine, 25 goals on the season after missing 2 months. Kid seems pretty good. Because the Blue Jackets love to let guys score their first goals of the season on them, the Blues score. Turpchenko scores his first of the season to make it 3-2, and the Blue Jackets cling on to that lead going into the third period. But I have a pretty bad feeling about it, honestly. And we're going to talk about the third period because lots happened in just a minute. But first, I'm going to tell you about a new sponsor. And they have a product that I use literally every day, and it's called Athletic Greens. I started taking it because I've been having some health issues. I've been having some trouble, getting up in the morning. I've had no energy, and Athletic Greens has fixed all of that for me. I've been taking it for a couple of weeks now, and it's pretty good. It doesn't taste super healthy. It has this kind of like mild tropical fruity taste. So what is Athletic Greens? It is 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to start your day right. They support gut health, nervous system, your immune system, energy, recovery, focus, aging, all of the things, basically. And all you need is you put a scoop of it into a cup of water. I have this like 12-ounce water bottle that I use, and you just shake the heck out of it. And then that's how I start my day. I will get up, I will have my Athletic Greens, I will wait a minute, and then I will have some breakfast. And that's it's ideal. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you are keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. It is good for all of those. It's basically a multivitamin, but in a drink, and it's super easy. You don't have to do a ton of pills. Everything is in one, and it costs you less than $3 a day. You are investing in your health, and it's cheaper than getting cold brew. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, especially heading into the flu and cold season. It is just one scoop in a cup of water every day. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it even easier for you, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1 year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. So it's trade deadline day. We already know this. But at 3:30 Eastern, make sure you're tuning into Locked On Fantasy Hockey's live deadline reaction show to get all of the on-ice, fantasy, and betting analysis you need from hosts Steele Roden and Flip Livingston, with appearances from our roster of local team experts. Plus, I will be going live at 3 o'clock Eastern for my immediate reaction to Columbus's moves at the trade deadline. So make sure you check that out. That will be this afternoon. So keep an eye out for that. But for right now, let's talk about the third period of the Blue Jackets game, because, like I said, lots happened. It was very much a game where they could have easily thrown it away, and honestly, I wouldn't have been surprised if they did. Sean Kuraly scores to make it 4-2. Again, he continues to hit career highs. It's his 11th goal of the season, beating his previous career high, I believe, of 9 or 10 goals. So again, great to see that from Kuraly. David Perron shows up again on the power play, again makes it 4-3. Jake Voracek scores only his 4th goal of the season, which again, it's just Jake Voracek is such a fascinating player to watch. He's just incredible, just so much fun, and so bonkers. 4th goal of the season 41 assists on the season, makes it 5-3, and honestly, even then, I'm like, we are not safe here. The Blue Jackets can very easily ruin this, and they almost did. David Perron completes the hat trick with about a minute and a half left. The Blue Jackets managed to hang on and not allow another goal, giving them the 5-4 victory. But man, they did not make it easy for themselves. And even worse, Elvis left the game halfway through the third period. I believe just before the second Perron goal, so like 8 minutes into the third. He left with lower back tightness, I think, is what the official word is, which is not great, not good news. The Blue Jackets emergency recalled JF Berube late last night, so again, not good news. Makes me think that Elvis is going to be out for at least a little while. Luckily, it's kind of a quiet schedule this week. The Blue Jackets don't play again until tomorrow. They face Pittsburgh, and then they face Winnipeg on Friday. So it could come at a worse time, but it's still not ideal for, the Blue Jackets and their goalie carousel of injuries and ghosts. So we'll keep an eye on that. It is a shame. I have really liked Elvis's game the last kind of week or so. I think he's played really well. I thought he was fantastic in the Ottawa game. So again, we'll see how it goes. Maybe it's not as bad as we hope, but it does kind of feel like, yeah, just why wouldn't this happen? Just yet another goalie injury. The Blue Jackets continue to be without Boone Jenner and Adam Boquist, so at some point, maybe the Blue Jackets will have a fully healthy, ideal squad at some point this season, but I'm not holding my breath for any of that. So it was a good win though, and it was a good win, especially considering Korpisalo came in cold with like 13 minutes left and held on to the lead. They didn't let St. Louis get a point. St. Louis is a playoff team, so it's all good, things, I think, or all promising signs, especially after the Washington game. This felt like a pretty good bounce back game. It'll be interesting to see how they do in Pittsburgh tomorrow, which we will talk about in tomorrow's show. Probably we'll do a little bit of a preview of the Pittsburgh game and probably some recapping of the trade deadline, which is what we're going to talk about in just a minute. But first, I've got to tell you all about BetOnline, because it's that time of year again. College basketball, March Madness, finally upon us, and from all the latest odds, contests, and player props, BetOnline is the number one source for all your sports betting needs and information. They remain the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sporting wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. They've got baseball, they've got basketball, they've got NHL. They probably have trade deadline stuff if you would like to put some money on, I don't know, who is going to be the first player moved by the Blue Jackets. I bet you could do it over at BetOnline. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. Once again, that is betonline.net, where the game starts. And I've also got to tell you about Built Bar, because once I've had my athletic greens in the morning, breakfast is usually a Built Bar. And if you don't know what Built Bar is, it is a protein bar that tastes exactly like a candy bar. And I know that's the selling point for so many protein bars, but Built Bar means it. You get these protein bars at the gas station, and they're chalky or waxy, and the peanut butter doesn't taste like peanuts or butter. The mint kind of tastes like toothpaste. Built Bar is none of these things. They are delicious. They have a really good soft texture, and they even have a bunch of fun, new things. So they've got something called a Built Puff, which is the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They are not just a protein bar, they are a treat. They're covered in 100% real chocolate. They are fluffy, they are soft, they are easy to chew. And I can't get enough of them. Built Bar Puffs are my favourites, and they're going to be yours as well. Built Bar is low calorie, high protein, high fiber, low carb, low sugar, high fiber. I've said that already. It's basically all good things. You can't go wrong with a Built Bar. And here's the best bit: you go to built.com, use promo code locked15, you get 15% off your order. Once again, that is promo code locked15 for 15% off at built.com. So let's talk trade deadline, because I feel like I've been putting off really thinking about it, seeing, well, how's the market going to settle? Are the Blue Jackets going to make the playoffs? Are they going to be buyers or sellers, or are they just going to kind of sit in between and not do anything? And it's still kind of tough to say. They're keeping it very close to the chest. There's some chatter that Max Domi was going to maybe go to the Washington Capitals, but again, nothing has really materialized. Probably by the time I finish recording, something will have materialized, because that's how this works. So that'll be something I talk about in the live show this afternoon. But with Merzlikins' injury, it's made it basically impossible for Korpisalo to be traded, and honestly, he's kind of played himself out of a trade anyway this season, which is not typically his fault. We're going to talk a little bit about the goalies later this week, actually, because I saw a really interesting stat about which goalies are getting the most help from their teammates in terms of like having shots blocked and rebounds cleared and whatnot, and which goalies are having the least support from their teammates. And shockingly, both Merzlikins and Korpisalo were very high on the list of goalies that are not being helped by their defense. So that's something we're going to talk about a little bit later on, but it does mean that Korpisalo will likely continue to be a Blue Jacket through the trade deadline, and maybe they re-sign him in the summer, or maybe he walks. It's tough to say, but the goalie market also is just not really there. There are a couple of teams that are like, well, yeah, we could use a goalie, but we don't want to pay for a goalie. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone really does trade for a goalie. There's chatter of Marc-Andre Fleury being moved. Edmonton needs a goalie, but continues to say that they don't need a goalie, so we'll see what happens there. The St. Louis Blues are kind of chattering about, do they move one of their goalies in an attempt to add somewhere else? I don't know. But Korpisalo probably staying where he is. I wouldn't be surprised to see Max Domi move. The free agent or the trade deadline market is bananas right now. So, it's Brandon Hagel for 2 first-round picks and 2 prospects, or the Hampus Lindholm return was massive, or, the Giroux was kind of a little bit underwhelming, but he basically was like, you trade me to Florida or you don't trade me. And Florida knew that, so they basically said, well, listen, you can have a second and a third and a ginger. So they had their hands really tied. But looking at the trade deadline market, it does make me think that Kekalainen probably won't shift Domi for anything less than, a second rounder. Probably he could get a first rounder if he gets the right team. I'm still crossing my fingers and hoping that we can have Toronto's first round pick at some point for Max Domi. So we'll see. Again, we'll continue to keep an eye on that, but I don't see the Blue Jackets having a super noisy trade deadline. They never do anyway. We've talked about it before. Jarmo Kekalainen doesn't like the trade deadline. He doesn't like free agency. He likes to draft players and develop them himself. So I can't see him doing a ton in the summer, really, but especially right now. The Blue Jackets are not primed to be buyers. They're not going to make the playoffs, but they don't have a ton of contracts to move. Someone mentioned that Dean Kukan could be moved, maybe, but if your biggest assets are Max Domi and Dean Kukan, and then and underperforming Jonas Korpisalo, you're just not gonna, yeah, you can trade them, but you'll be trading them for pennies on the dime. So I don't see a point. And if they walk in free agency, they walk in free agency. So it's a weird situation. I've kind of been keeping an eye on some moving parts and who's going where. Metro Division has been pretty quiet anyway, but just to reiterate, I don't see the Blue Jackets making a a huge splash. I'll be very, very surprised if the Blue Jackets do much of anything. Honestly, I think Max Domi is going to be the biggest move that they make, and they might get a second round pick for him. So that's kind of that. And that's kind of all I've got for today. Like I said earlier, we are going to be going live on YouTube tonight. Well, tonight for me, this afternoon for all of you at 3 p.m. Eastern. I will be going live on YouTube to talk about the trade deadline, to talk about the Max Domi deal, or maybe the Max Domi non-deal, or maybe Kekalainen will surprise me. But I will be talking about all of that on that. If you missed the live show, it will be uploaded as a podcast tomorrow morning. So again, keep your eye out for that. That's going to be tomorrow's show. And thank you all once again for making this your first listen of the day. I appreciate you, whether you are a first-time listener or a regular listener. Thanks for stopping on by. I have been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOB FORSTER. You can find the podcast at LO_Blue Jackets. If you have comments, questions, criticisms, you can email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.